Okay, so yesterday I did my first review of Great Debate G+ in blog posts. That's on my profile page, you can see it there. I've opened up a collection so that these can all be posted in a collection which is of the same title. So what this one is going to be is this is going to be an update from yesterday's review video on these Great Debate G+, because there was some responses, some developments given what I had posted, and this is going to be an update of that, just to keep people informed and to show how things can progress in a discussion. Following on from this update, I'll then be looking to do a second review of my newsfeed and also blog posts. I'm also looking to add other interesting blog posts to this review process, or communities, or if you've got a particular post in mind, a particular subject in mind on the G+, or blogs that you want to be reviewed, let me know, and I'll have a look at it and see if we can incorporate that into this project. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a review of yesterday, some updates from yesterday. Now yesterday, what I posted yesterday, there was 5 topics, apart from the blog post, which there's been no comments on, so we don't need to do any updates on those, apart from that comment. But what we did do is we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subjects that I touched off. The 4 of them, the first one was the Matt Dillahunty dodge. There was no responses to that, no comments on that, at least not on G+. I had some brief interaction on my Facebook page, but it was not anything that needs updated on. The Matt Dillahunty dodge, so that went uncommented on. We had Uriah Christensen's argument for a necessary universe. Now, there's not been any response to my comments on that here in response to my review. However, as I predicted in the first review, a review of Great Debate G+ and blog post number 1, as I predicted there would be some ongoing discussion in the community in which that discussion was taking place. That community is the Skeptics Corner, which again I would recommend people join, not only just to follow that thread, but to participate in other threads. So in brief, basically there's been a back and forward between myself and Christensen regarding premise 3. Premise 3 was that matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed, which is an attempt to represent the first law of thermodynamics, and that's a misrepresentation in my view of that law, because what it should be, even given a brief discussion we had, Uriah and I, it should be in an isolated system. Matter and energy cannot be destroyed. Now, my thinking on that's progressed as I've been having that discussion with Uriah, rather than challenging the point of, rather than just challenging the point of the misrepresenting of the first law, and whether or not the universe is a isolated or non-isolated system. The more interesting challenge to that is that the first law only has application where you have a system. So if the universe is a system, and if the universe began to exist, then without the universe, where's the first law of thermodynamics? It doesn't exist. So you can't then, his argument fails unless you can show that the system itself is eternal, and that being eternal, it's closed or isolated, and then he might have an argument. But of course, if he's going to try and show the universe is eternal, then he's going against lots of current cosmology, where the current thinking seems to dominate is that the universe had a beginning, it's finite in the past. So that would be something he would need to be looking at to address. But as I said, the discussion's ongoing in the Skeptics Corner, as well as myself participating in that. Bena Berry came into the discussion a little bit, but only briefly. And then FoxintheKnow has also involved himself in that discussion, also criticising the argument or suggesting that there's problems with the argument with respect to the use of the word necessary being ambiguous, and what would be required from Uriah in order to tighten up the argument and make it less objectionable. But my primary response has been that when you're talking about either the universe is contingent or the universe is necessary, which is premise 2, well, yeah, but if the universe is contingent and matter energy can be created, yeah, so the problems between P2 and P3. So yeah, it's true, if the universe is contingent, then something created matter energy. It doesn't come into the effect about being destroyed, but then he then brings into P3 something that would only apply with the universe, and that's the first law of thermodynamics. But it's an interesting subject. It's an interesting argument from Uriah, and go along, join Skeptics community, have a look at Skeptics Corner, sorry, have a look at that and participate if you feel you want to. So that's an update on the subject number 2 that we raised. We had Dillahunty's dodge, no comment. Uriah's, there's been no comment on my video there, but have been some dialogue on the Skeptics Corner thread. The third subject, probably the most relevant update, is with respect to Wayne Philmore. If you remember, I'll just briefly recap. Wayne Philmore had posted in the Great Debate that in his observation and interaction with non-believers, atheists, ex-converts, their 2 main objections is that the supernatural and that the Bible's man-made. And he was basically putting forward the position there that on those, the skeptics, the atheists, they're 100% correct. All miracles are natural, and the Bible was written by men. My initial challenge to him there was with respect to if all miracles are natural, then does he not believe that God created the natural world? Now, of course, seems a simple question, but it does raise serious problems. If God created the natural world, then the natural world is not responsible for that. Therefore, it's a supernatural event, not something done by God using something natural. It's the creation of the natural. And so he would need to admit of at least one supernatural event. Now, when this was initially raised in the Great Debate community, which is run by Steve McRae, and again, I would recommend if you want to see some discussion there, join his community, look through the posts, participate. We might be having a look at some of the posts in there later and other communities or in a different video. But so I raised this question to Wayne Philmore. He didn't respond. I then isolated the main point he had made and made it a separate thread on my own profile, tagged him in that, raised the question again, and once again he failed to respond. So it seemed to be as if he wasn't going to respond. I raised this subject in the review number 1, yesterday's review, and yeah, shortly after that he eventually did respond. His response was, I had asked the question, did God create the natural world? His response, yes, he did. Okay, so just to make sure that there was no misunderstanding going on there, I followed that up with the question, so given that God created the natural world, and miracles are indeed natural, what he previously said, can Philmore explain how God could naturally create the natural world? That's bringing out the problem with his statement. So he answered to that, the creation of the universe was an event that surpasses natural law, but every miraculous event or divine intervention that has happened past Genesis 1:1 was God guiding natural laws to make something improbable possible. So again, just to be totally clear, so I said to him, you take the position, contrary to non-theists and ex-converts, that at least one supernatural miracle occurred. His answer, yes, supernatural. So that's a shift in position from asserting in the Great Debate community that all miracles are natural, trying to align himself with ex-converts and skeptics and atheists. He now has to separate himself, at least on that one occasion, from those atheists and say, well, you need to say, well, you're 99% correct with regard to the supernatural, but here's an exception. And of course, that would take him into an area of contention with them. And that's what he's trying to avoid, I think. So, so he said, yes, the rest are hypernatural. I then responded, okay, so by what natural process did God bring about the conception of Jesus or his resurrection from the dead? And what do you mean by hypernatural? And how does that differ from supernatural? He never answered that last question, the difference between hyper and supernatural. He never answered the question, what natural process did God bring about the conception of Jesus? He did say this on the resurrection. We don't know by what natural process resurrection can happen yet, but maybe one day we might. Now, that's a dodge. Okay, that's a non-response. It's basically making an appeal to the unknown. In fact, it very much reminded me when I seen the post of what we had discussed yesterday, which was Dillahunty's dodge, where rather than say, I don't know, or yeah, you've got a point there, he tried to fill in a gap in his knowledge, in anyone's knowledge, in fact, with an appeal to what we might know in the future. And that's not how things work. We make evaluations and judgments based on what we have available evidence for now. And not only that, given the fact that he can't give a process for that, the postulation of the natural is postulating it fails by Occam's razor. So you've got two possible explanations. You've got two hypotheses. The first hypothesis is that God, an omnipotent being, supernaturally resurrected Jesus from the dead, a temporary exception to the laws of nature, to bring about something intended by God. That's hypothesis one, where you have God and you have the supernatural event. With Philmore's, you have God, you have some unknown natural process to bring about the same end, but he can't. Adding in this unknown process doesn't get you any. It doesn't explain anything. It doesn't give us any explanation. So it's superfluous to the explanation. And you don't, all things being equal, you don't multiply entities beyond that which is necessary. That entity of some unknown natural process is an extra entity you don't need in order to have the explanation. So it fails by Occam's razor. It's vacuous, it's redundant, it's superfluous, it's shaved off, it's gone. And what we then have is a second example, I would say, of a supernatural event. I then asked him the question, Does the answer you give here, an appeal to an unknown process, apply to every other medical claim in the Bible, such as the conception of Jesus, parting of the Red Sea, turning water into wine, healings by Jesus, etc.? Or can you provide the natural processes by which those miracles happen? Now, the point of that is that given the fact that with the resurrection, his attempt to have that as a natural event of an unknown natural process, that it fails by Occam's razor. If he can't provide, if he answers the same to those questions and all the other miracles, there's lots of them, then they would also equally fall to Occam's razor, and his whole position basically would collapse into nothingness on that day. However, he has refused, well, he's not refused, he hasn't answered that question. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but so far, more than 29 hours later, he hasn't responded to that, although I haven't seen him making any other posts, so he might just be busy or anything. He also never explained what hypernatural means. Sounds to me the same as supernatural. He needs to explain that as well. So that covers off his claim all miracles are natural. It seems to fall by Occam's razor, barring any cogent response he can provide that saves his position there. On the second part, I also asked him with respect to when you say the Bible was written by men, do you think that is equivalent to the atheist statement that the Bible is man-made? That I was putting forward it's not. His response to that, the Bible was written by men. However, God guided those men by using their understanding and worldview to write down theological truths and important historical events from the writer's perspective. So as soon as he brings in God guided, then we have to ask the question, well, how did God guide? Is that something supernatural? If that's supernatural, then how did he do that via natural process, according to Philmore's position? And is that guiding what Christians call inspiration? So again, it seems to be a failure of reasoning to postulate that there's agreement between him and non-theistic converts that when they say the Bible's man-made, they mean that's it. No divine inspiration, no guidance of the Holy Spirit, nothing like that. It's just a man-made book, same as the Iliad or Homer or Harry Potter. Whereas the Christian, and it seems to be including Philmore, would be postulating some divine influence there on that, which again brings the two views into conflict and contention. So I did ask him the question, do you think any non-theist ex-converts, when they say the Bible is man-made, has in mind any guiding actions, inspiration by God? They obviously don't. He has to say that. And I say that will bring out the conflict, because what he's trying to do is show there's no conflict between their view and his view, but we've seen with the supernatural there is, and with this there is also. It's not possible to accommodate atheism into a Christian worldview. There are points of departure that just cannot be avoided, and God doing miracles is one of them, and the Bible being inspired by God is another one, and never the twain will meet, as they say. But he hasn't responded to that yet, and we'll see if he does. If he does, I'll give an update at some point. But that covers off two of the areas we touched upon. Let me just go back to that. So yes, so nothing on the Dillahunty Dodge. We've covered off more discussion with Christensen's argument for a necessary universe. We've covered off Wayne Philmore's responses, seemingly in light of the review we did yesterday. There's no response to no comments on the Great Debate blogs. That only leaves you with the rather uninteresting situation where I raised the failure by the LISP's logically impaired scientific posse, including Steve McRae, to know about or challenge Hugh Ross's anti-evolution position. Where he had them in a hangout, it seems to be the case that Hugh Ross, maybe even Fuz Rana, take the view that all major biological life forms were specially created by God at the Cambrian explosion, so no process of evolution there. Darwinian evolution or neo-Darwinian evolution. McRae has him on the hangout, both of them on the hangout. It's all congenial, it's all nice, it's all attacking young earth creationism, it's all having supposedly refuting true empiricism and things like that. But that's only because McRae and the other LISP refused to engage with them and challenge them on this view that about evolution, which is quite surprising given the fact that Fiona Robertson, for example, who commented here on this post, and Steve McRae, they seem to spend all of their time on G+, going after anti-evolutionists and young earth creationists, etc. Here they have someone of the stature of Hugh Ross and Fuz Rana. Oh, no, let's have a nice chat here. Let's not upset the apple cart. Let's get on top of young earth creationists and true empiricism. Thank you very much, Mr. Ross. Thank you very much, Mr. Rana. It's been great speaking to you. Maybe in 10 years' time, we'll engage you in the area that we think you are absolutely, totally wrong. We'll see if that happens. I doubt it will. But there was a couple of responses to that, but none of them of any relevance. McRae responded, but a non-response, basically just ad hominem, or not even ad hominem, just throwing out random insults, uninteresting. But that's because I don't think you could excuse it, even if you tried to. Fiona Robertson came in and commented, basically saying that I missed the point, that it wasn't a debate. I don't think I called it a debate. I need to review the review video, but I don't think I called it a debate. I wasn't making the point that they were there to debate. I'm making the point that even in that congenial discussion, a phrase I did use, that there was an opportunity there for the LISPs to act consistently with what they do on G+, and have a discussion with Fuz Rana and Hugh Ross about biological evolution on that there. And as far as I know, they failed to do that. And I think, given the fact I've said that a couple of times, and no one's jumped on me to correct me on that, you can take that as fairly well established. So McRae didn't say anything of import. Fiona Robertson didn't say anything of import, and there was no other relevant comments in the Great Debate community to the posting of my review there. So that kind of covers off all the updates that I have from yesterday's hangout. I'm trying to keep this as short as I possibly can. Something always difficult for me to do. Just a little bit of note on format. Bert Poole suggested to me that he liked the on the YouTube list I post the subjects I've covered off. I'm going to continue to do that, but he suggested I also add timestamps. So I'm going to add in timestamps as well. So you can, if you've got a particular subject you're following or subject of interest, you can just go straight to that subject, and with the timestamp, and you need to worry about the other stuff there on that there. So that's the update concluded. What I'm going to do is stop this here. I'll then download, edit out if anything needs edited out. I'm going to then I'll then repost it to my YouTube channel, and in that there'll be a couple of things. There'll be the subjects, there'll be the timestamps, and I think I'll also make reference to the people I've mentioned in the Hangout, just so that I'm giving credit where credit's due, and also I'm flagging to those people I've mentioned them, so in case they want to respond. So hopefully that's been nice and short. In summary, it's just been a review of Uriah Christensen on the Skeptics Corner, Wayne Philmore on his posts there, first in the Great Debate and then on my profile, and Steve McRae and the list with Fuz Rana. That about covers it off. Thanks for listening. If you listen to this, and if you've got any topics you want to be reviewed, let me know, and I'll see what I can do for you there. Thanks very much.